The Boston Celtics might be standing at the edge of a cliff, and the next step could define not just the next season, but the next 5 years. Behind the scenes, there's a trade concept being quietly floated around that could send shockwaves through the league. And no, this isn't your usual salary cap cleanup. It's a move that could either be hailed as a visionary gamble or end up as a catastrophic black mark on Brad Stevens' resume. The idea? Swapping Kristaps Porzingis for a familiar but injury-riddled face, Robert Williams III. At first glance, it sounds logical. A cheaper, younger alternative. A player who once electrified TD Garden. But dig deeper, and the layers of risks start to look more like landmines than opportunities. Why is this idea even being considered now? And more importantly, why aren't more people talking about the real consequences if it goes wrong? Let's start with what's not being said loudly enough. This trade isn't really about basketball, it's about money. With a looming luxury tax that could hit 9 figures, the Celtics are under pressure to cut costs, and Porzingis's $30 million salary sticks out like a sore thumb. Enter the tempting idea: send him to Portland and bring back Robert Williams III, who's on a much friendlier, expiring contract. On paper, this frees Boston from a long-term financial burden. But here's where things start to get terrifying. Williams, as beloved as he was, has barely touched the court since leaving Boston. We're talking just 26 games over 2 seasons. That's not a slump. That's a player whose knees are sending warning signs that his career could be in freefall. Are the Celtics really willing to stake a championship window on a center whose medical chart reads like a horror story? Porzingis, despite his own durability concerns, actually played significant minutes this season, and not just filler time. He averaged 19.5 points, brought interior scoring the Celtics lacked for years, and provided spacing that transformed Boston's offense. Losing that, just to roll the dice on a sentimental reunion with a player who's logged more rehab hours than minutes played. That's not nostalgia, that's recklessness. And here's the twist that few are considering. If Boston pulls the trigger on this move and Williams' body breaks down again, they'll have burned a valuable trade asset for nothing. No flexibility, no production, just an empty contract slot and another round of what-ifs. This isn't about bringing back a fan favorite. It's about whether Boston is willing to gamble its finals or bust ambitions on a player whose most reliable skill recently has been sitting courtside in street clothes. There's also a deeper concern bubbling beneath the surface. Is this front office getting too cute? Let's not forget, Boston already traded Williams away in the first place. That was part of the cost to land Drew Holiday, a move that helped shape the league's top defense. Flipping Porzingis now to bring Williams back feels less like strategic maneuvering and more like desperate backtracking. It's the kind of circular logic that could come back to haunt them, especially if the rest of the league starts sensing panic. Other GMs are watching, and if they smell blood in the water, they'll exploit it. What's stopping them from offering even less for Porzingis now that they know Boston wants out? This could weaken Boston's leverage, both in this trade and in any future deal. The question isn't just whether the trade works, it's what kind of signal it sends about the Celtics' long-term strategy, or lack thereof. Just when you thought the Boston Celtics' offseason strategy was going to be predictable, a new name quietly creeps into the spotlight. Kobe Bryant, a name that's not headlining mock drafts or setting Twitter on fire, but might just be the most dangerously overlooked sharpshooter in the 2025 NBA draft. While most Celtics fans are debating contract extensions, trade targets, and luxury tax gymnastics, the front office may be preparing a move that could redefine their bench rotation and do it for pennies on the dollar. With the 28th and 32nd picks in hand, and a desperate need to slash $20 million in salary, the Celtics might be setting up to pull off a stealthy but high-impact replacement for Sam Hauser. The question isn't if Brea is on their radar, it's whether the front office has the nerve to take a swing on an elite shooter who brings Hauser-like production. Minus the paycheck, Brea is not the name plastered all over ESPN, but if you dig a little deeper into his game logs and analytics, his profile reads like a budget version of a sniper built for Boston's system. shooting 43.5% from deep and 91.4%. From the line last season at Kentucky, Brea didn't just shoot well, he obliterated expectations. And he did it in every way that matters. Spotting up, pulling up, running off screens, even popping in transition. We're not talking about a catch-and-shoot specialist here. We're talking about a perimeter assassin with footwork, release, speed, and the type of range that forces defenders to panic 2 steps beyond the arc. It's no wonder some insiders are comparing him directly to Hauser. But here's the kicker. Brea might be available in the 30s. That means Stevens could trade back again, just like he did in 2023, and still walk away with a plug-and-play sharpshooter. Imagine replacing a rotation piece like Hauser, shaving millions off the cap sheet and never skipping a beat on the floor. But let's not pretend this is a flawless transition. Hauser didn't just earn minutes because he could shoot. He earned them because he eventually learned how not to get cooked on defense. That's where Brea still has work to do. Scouts consistently flag his lateral quickness, physical strength, and on-ball awareness as liabilities. He's not a turnstile, but he's also not a stopper, at least not yet. Still, his 6'7" frame gives him a baseline to build on. Add 10 pounds of muscle, trim a few tenths off his shuttle drill, and suddenly he's not a defensive risk. He's a mismatch problem on both ends. And while his finishing at the rim is still a work in progress, his shooting gravity could open up driving lanes for teammates more than himself. You don't draft Brea to drive. You draft him to stretch defenses like Taffy and cash in on every open look the Jays create. That has value, serious value. Let's get real. This isn't just about drafting a shooter. It's about freeing up the front office to make the kind of hard calls that contenders have to make. Michael Scotto recently tagged Hauser as a potential trade chip, and that wasn't by accident. Boston is staring down the second apron like it's a financial guillotine, and every dollar counts. If Brea proves even remotely capable of replacing Hauser's output, it makes the decision to flip Hauser in a cost-cutting deal way easier to swallow. Suddenly, the Celtics aren't just staying competitive. They're building a sustainable machine under the new CBA restrictions. And if Jayson Tatum's Achilles injury lingers longer than expected, they're going to need every bit of that flexibility to keep the wheels from falling off. Drafting Brea wouldn't just be about fit, it would be about survival, depth, and long-term planning. It's the kind of move that looks small in June and defines seasons by March. The brutal Achilles tear that will likely sideline Jayson Tatum for the entire 2025-26 NBA season has sent shockwaves through the league. And more importantly, it's plunged the Boston Celtics into a chaos they weren't remotely prepared for. Losing your franchise cornerstone, your offensive anchor, and your emotional leader in one blow isn't just painful, it's destabilizing. And while Celtics fans are still processing the grief, front office calculators are already working overtime. Why? Because what looks like a disaster on the surface might actually be the hidden blessing no one saw coming. That's the kind of cruel twist only the NBA can deliver. One where misfortune could force Boston to finally answer the question it's avoided for years. What does the team beyond Tatum really look like? For years, Boston has operated like a high-speed train, sleek, structured, and heavily reliant on Tatum at the engine. But with that engine suddenly cut, we're about to find out what's under the hood of this franchise. And here's the shocking part. That level of exposure could be the most valuable thing to happen to this roster in years. Players like Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh weren't just waiting in the wings. They were practically buried there, lost behind a rotation, focused on short-term results. Now, they're about to be tossed into the fire, not in garbage time or summer league fluff, but in real, system-critical moments. And that's exactly where true player value is revealed. There's a raw, unfiltered version of growth that only happens when the training wheels come off. And the Celtics are about to experience it in full force. The Celtics aren't just dealing with injury problems. They're staring down a financials reckoning. With the second apron looming like a guillotine over team-building flexibility, this summer was already set to be painful. Tatum's injury just accelerates the process. Boston will likely move at least one of Kristaps Porzingis or Drew Holiday, not necessarily by choice, but by necessity. And that sets the stage for something bigger than one lost season. It's a forced organizational reset, one where the focus shifts from keeping the luxury tax wolves at bay to identifying which young players can actually play. It's a rare moment where minutes won't be earned through politics or pedigree. They'll be earned through grit, upside, and sheer on-court impact. That clarity, it's priceless, because when Tatum returns, Boston won't just be rebooting with the same old cast. They might have discovered their next breakout core, without even meaning to. No amount of spin can make this season a title run. That dream evaporated the second Tatum's Achilles snapped. But this moment, right now, is the type of fork in the road that defines front office legacies. Brad Stevens, now fully in his executive era, doesn't have the luxury of treating this like a mulligan year. Every move, from the draft picks at 28 and 32 to potential trades of veterans, to the development plans for Walsh and Shireman, will set the tone for what comes after. And here's where things get even more high stakes. Boston has to remain attractive to Tatum long-term. That means building something convincing in his absence, not just waiting for him to heal. This is about proving that the Celtics are bigger than one player. It's about creating a roster that's deeper, younger, and more financially sustainable. And if that happens, this injury won't be the thing that killed Boston's title hopes. It might be the thing that saved them.